Hello and welcome to another FPL video. My name is Peter and this week I'll be creating a wildcard team for Game Week 6. Although I'm not personally activating the chip this week, it is a good option for many managers, and had I been doing so, this is the team I would have been considering. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit the like button and subscribe. I've put the team straight up on the screen so you can instantly see the general setup. The first obvious player you'll see is Erling Haaland. There is a slight debate as to whether he should be included in a wildcard at his price, but for me, he is absolutely essential for City's upcoming fixtures. He's been utterly devastating this season with a combination of power, pace and brilliant finishing, and he looks absolutely up for it every game, as if he is hell-bent on breaking records left, right and centre. And City's fixtures are brilliant. Don't be fooled into thinking Newcastle away first game is tricky. They have been a shambles all over the park, had a lot of fortune in the first games, and it was no surprise to see Fulham rip them apart in Game Week 5. Fulham are no City, and after a draw at home to Arsenal, will be out to prove their quality as reigning champions next match. Haaland could have a field day. The following four matches are great too. Fulham and Southampton at home, and Wolves and Bournemouth away are great for an attacking City side. He could easily be my captain in all of these, and he is the first player in my team and is irreplaceable. Such is my confidence in City's attacking threat over these fixtures, I really feel that owning Haaland isn't enough in itself, so I've opted for Savinho midfield as well, at 6.5 million. He seems to have already established himself as Guardiola's preferred right winger with his quick feet and trickery. He reminds me a lot of Riyad Mahrez, and Pep loved the way he forced defenders back and created space in the middle for others. He has an eye for a pass too, as he showed against Arsenal last week, releasing Haaland through the middle after a glorious first touch out wide. With Guardiola telling us how he really thought Silva and Foden were better in a central role, and with De Bruyne's injury leaving more space for them to play there, I think he'll get a lot of minutes this season, and he is a great option who I'm very keen to own. I've gone for the triple up in Manchester City, including Rico Lewis as well. At 4.7 million, he's one of those players you can afford to take a risk on if you have enough players guaranteed minutes, and this team is full of them. Lewis has been excellent this season as an inverted fullback, and even after being benched in the previous match, I expect to go on and get plenty of game time this season, even if he doesn't start every match. There is talk that maybe with Rodri's new injury, he might be more likely to play as he can push into the deeper midfield role, but City have other players who can do that, so it's not a guarantee. Nonetheless, of all players, he is one worth the risk if you have good backup, as his potential points when he is on the pitch are so high for a defender at his price. Now, City aren't the only team I have tripled up on. Arsenal are about to start a run of 3 brilliant matches, and even though they face a tough game against Liverpool in Game Week 8, the fixtures after continue to be good for many weeks. Arsenal's stats aren't wonderful this season. Their expected goals against is 7.26, and that nearly matches their expected goals for of 7.87. It's not great for a title-challenging team, but they have played 2 halves of football with 10 men and shown great resilience at times, and we know the threat they carry from last season, so those numbers should improve massively in the next 3 matches against significantly easier opposition. I expect them to score plenty of goals at home to Leicester and Southampton, and although their defence is renowned for being strong, they've been saved many times this season by David Raya. His save ratio of nearly 90% of shots faced is not the kind of stat that is realistic to last over a season. So if they are to continue to concede chances like they have been, I actually prefer to invest in their attacking assets more than their defensive ones, not a view held by many in the FPL community. As such, I have included the talisman Bukayo Saka, who has penalties, takes set pieces aplenty, and when Arsenal score, he is regularly involved. He is another candidate for captaincy along with Erling Haaland in Game Week 6 and 7. I've also chosen Kai Havertz 8.1 million, who has started very well with 2 goals and an assist this season and looks to have made the number 9 position his own above Gabriel Jesus. Finally, I have included Gabriel at 6.1 million, who appears nailed on at centre-back and has in recent weeks shown his attacking threat from set pieces, with him being targeted for headed chances and scoring 2 goals in 2 games. He won't continue that kind of run all season. He's only averaged 4 goals a season over the last 4 years, but the threat is clearly there to see, so he's the best defensive choice of Arsenal's options. I've also gone for the triple up on Everton, not because I rate them as highly as City and Arsenal, but because they represent potentially high value options, have wonderful fixture run for the next 9 weeks, and I fully expect them to surprise a few with a significant improvement in results. Everton have Jarrad Branthwaite and Vitaly Milenko returning from injury this week, and I think they'll both come into the team from the Palace match in Game Week 6. Branthwaite played 90 minutes for the under-21s last weekend and should be ready to go. Everton have a much stronger defence when he's in the team. Last season, they also started poorly without him playing, but once he returned they tightened up massively and ended the season with the 6th best expected goals against in the league and climbed to a comfortable mid-table finish. I would expect the same again this year, but it's Mykolenko I'd actually look to invest in, as at 4.3 million he is a wonderfully cheap enabler. He chipped in with a couple of goals and an assist last season as well, so an attacking return isn't out of the question either. There really isn't anyone better at his price. I also have McNeil at 5.4 million and Calvert-Lewin at 5.9. McNeil has been one of the most creative players in the league this season and has already notched up 2 goals and an assist, playing in the attacking number 10 role. Calvert-Lewin has been spearheading Everton's attacks and has 2 goals and an assist, so when chances do fall to Everton, these two are usually involved. And these figures also come from a poorly performing Everton team who have had a tough run of fixtures to start this season, but now the fixtures run has become much easier. I would expect them to create even more chances and as such get even more attacking returns. At their price, it is an opportunity not to be missed, so in they come too. That leaves 2 goalkeeper spots, 2 defender spots and 2 places in midfield to fill. Starting in goal, none of the 4.5 million options have really stood out this season. But history tells us that teams like Brentford, Palace and Forest have had a strong defensive record in previous seasons. Forest have started strongly, but they have had the easier fixtures, and now the fixture swing is in Brentford's favour, having already faced Liverpool, Manchester City and Spurs. Flecken is their number 1. I would happily play him in all of the next 8 fixtures and feel that Brentford will get clean sheets in a few of their matches during that time, which is plenty good enough for a keeper. I've also bought in Henderson of Crystal Palace, who is a 4.5 million backup should anything happen to Flecken. In addition, he rotates well with Flecken in future weeks when Brentford do have a few tricky fixtures. I'm talking a long way off, in weeks 14, 16 and 19, when Brentford play Villa away, Chelsea away and Arsenal at home. Palace have 3 much kinder fixtures at that point, being Ipswich away, Brighton away and Southampton at home, so I would rotate Henderson into the team for those matches. It's long-term planning, but the next wildcard isn't available until Gameweek 20, and you don't want to be making goalkeeper transfers if you can help it. In defence, I've gone for Trent, who has 4 clean sheets and an assist in 5 games this season. He's a premium defender, but his stats and creativity have been fantastic this season for Liverpool. He's been unfortunate not to have more attacking returns, and with the Liverpool defence currently the strongest in the league, he's not a player anyone would want to go without if they could afford him. I've also selected Pedro Porro. Although there was one point in the season last year when he had the most shots in the league without scoring, that just shows you how attacking and advanced he gets for a defender in FPL. His attacking returns duly flowed last year, he has scored once already this season, and there was every chance of more returns to come. Spurs also have shown deceptively strong defensive stats this year, a huge improvement on last year's wide open defence, and people are yet to pick up on this. They actually have the 3rd best defence behind only Manchester City and Liverpool, with 1.02 expected goals against per 90. Spurs' fixture run is also pretty good until Gameweek 16, excluding Manchester City away in Gameweek 12 of course. He's the kind of player that can really haul in the game, just like Trent, and I think there's every chance of that happening in the future, so in he comes. My midfield also has to contain Bryan Mbeumo, who's Brentford's talisman. He's on penalties, takes set pieces aplenty, and has already scored 4 goals in 5 games despite Brentford's difficult start. I've already mentioned how good the Brentford fixtures are becoming now, and that applies to their attacking players as well as their defensive ones. And Mbeumo is one of a few players you're going to see in nearly every wildcard squad, as he has so many routes to points, plus he plays 90 minutes every week. He is simply a must-have for me. Get him in. Lastly, I've picked Morgan Rogers at 5.2 million. He's another cheap enabler, but also a 90-minute man for a strong Aston Villa team. He took a while to pick up his first attacking returns, but grabbed 2 assists in Game Week 6, along with 3 bonus points, and his good fixtures continue for another 4 weeks. He can start in your teams when necessary, and he can be first on the bench at his price as well. Either way, he's fantastic value. There are a few players that are also popular on wildcard, and I'd like to give my feelings about the ones that I haven't chosen. Luis Diaz has had a wonderful start to the season and is one of the top picks I've seen on wildcard 6. For me though, he's really not an option. Firstly, Liverpool have had a lovely run of fixtures so far, but their upcoming matches are somewhat more difficult. Only 3 of their next 9 games are against teams I don't expect to finish in the top half of the table, those being the Palace, Wolves and Southampton matches. Chelsea, Arsenal, Brighton, Villa, City and Newcastle will all be fighting for European qualification this season, and they are the other 6. It's not an easy run, even though Liverpool are a top team and will do well still. Also, with the Champions League fixtures up and running now, Liverpool will rotate more, and although Diaz will likely start most games, he will also get early substitutions, lessening his points potential. Lastly, Diaz has also outperformed his XGI this season, and we're not really expecting that to continue all season, based on his performance in previous years. There will be a drop-off, and on Wildcard, we're looking for strong long-term picks, and Diaz simply isn't that. Nicholas Jackson is also very popular after 4 goals and 2 assists in the opening 5 weeks, and he's looked really good. As with Diaz though, Chelsea's good fixture run is about to come to an end, facing Brighton, Forest, Liverpool and Arsenal, 4 of the top defences in this season based on expected goals against, all in their next 6 games. That's not a good run, and I would avoid Jackson and any other Chelsea attackers in your Game Week 6 wildcard. Semenyo, another option, has 2 great fixtures, with Southampton this week and Leicester next. His stats this season are great, with 0.35 expected goals and 0.28 expected assists. The problem is, his following 3 games are against Arsenal, Villa and City, which is about as tough as it gets. I'm not ever really keen to bring in a player for only 2 games, wildcard or not, so I haven't picked him for that reason. However, if you are willing to make a transfer out in Game Week 8, especially if you've managed to save a few transfers already this season, then I might consider owning him instead of McNeil for the first 2 games, and then bringing McNeil in for him in Game Week 8. The rest of the team I've picked all have long-term potential. Remember, things go wrong in FPL. Injury, suspension, surprise benchings. You'll always find your team needs surgery when you weren't expecting it, so don't plan too many transfers in advance. You'll only end up having to change your mind. I hope you've enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Please remember to hit the like button and subscribe before you leave. See you next time.